and being recorded.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's all,
yes.
It's all bullshit anyways.
Yeah.
You
Truly.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome to Hive Scum.
Yeah, the podcast for the beautiful 28 community. We're at Adepticon.
Yeah.
In a, what would you call this? A service hallway for the
Service
back
hallway.
of the
Yes.
con?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the perfect word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where they keep the service
Yes.
that run this convention.
They're in those cabinets there.
Right behind us.
This is where
Metal
BDCF recorded
Yeah.
his ambient
His
album.
ambient album.
This is where I played Vampire last night.
Yeah,
I'm going to play it tonight, actually, in here, too.
and we'll talk about that soon. But before we talk about that, we should introduce our two wonderful guests.
Yeah, you already know our voices.
Yeah.
Hey, who are you?
That's a good question. I don't know. No. Hi, I'm Dave Taylor, here to talk stuff about
A legend in the world of miniatures.
Wow, that goes without being said.
Yes. And
That makes me sound really old.
no,
Stop
stop
A
it.
myth.
You are the coolest man in the room anywhere.
Dave, if you could just sum yourself up in maybe a sentence.
Yeah, pitch yourself
Your
to us.
entire life. in one
Put yourself to us youngins.
People who might not know you.
Imagine this is my dating profile.
Yeah, you can leave the age out and
I am so old. Basically, I've been playing toy soldier stuff for like 35 years and working in the toy soldier business for like 33. Worked for a bunch of companies, GW, War Games Illustrated, have my own business, Dave Taylor Miniatures, and most recently I've been doing a lot of publishing projects, and the latest one that went through Kickstarter was 28 Collected.
Yeah.
Working with the wonderful team from Team 28.
very excited.
Wow.
Before we get to our next legend, I will say it right now and just get out of the way.
Wow.
Buying the Art of Anna book is the reason we are in this room right now together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That first Adepticon, we all bought the book.
Yes.
Wow.
And Terry and I are reading it on the plane, and we're like, this is the community we want. So, thank you.
Yep. Oh, no. Thank Anna.
I have thanked her in person, so now that I can do it to you, thank you.
That is a crazy thing that I have not thought about. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course. Like
yeah.
we were sitting there being like, maybe we should like kind of branch out. Maybe we should
Yeah.
figure out how we can kind of build something.
Yes.
And it was because we were looking at that book on the plane.
Yeah. And then
That's awesome.
You probably sold it to us.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. And then I started a Discord in Rust We Trust.
Yep.
And Matt kind of pushed it out there. And it was mostly just like punks and hardcore dudes who were interested in it. And that's how we met our next guest, Nate. You just popped in the Discord one day. And we're just talking about hardcore and giving us insane lore. So Nate Dungeon, you want to give us an elevator pitch on yourself?
On myself?
Yeah.
I am Nate Dungeon. I am the Dungeon Master. I was the proprietor of the greatest punk rock basement venue of all time, Nate's Dungeon.
I've heard that, not from just you, but other people.
Other people.
I've definitely heard it from you, though.
Of course. Yeah,
But you have the pictures to back it up.
I
so
like to tell people that.
Yeah.
About it. Yeah. I did that for 12 years.
Yep.
And then more recently, I've been involved with organizing gaming in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with Renegade Open, various things along that.
Yep.
And then I am now retired from being a 40K staff for Adepticon, but I did that for 15 years.
Right.
And various other side kind of narrative events that I was running while doing that. And like this last year.
Yeah.
Actually, this last year. This year, I did some Grimdark Future Firefight narrative event.
How did those go?
Very well. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, the Thursday went really well. I had 8 people on it, and it was a very involved system where there was currency and there was loot, and I encouraged players to wheel and deal and barter on the edge of the galaxy, and people were doing that. The one guy was like, I got a box of ammo. Who's got map fragments? I got a box of ammo.
Sick.
Oh, that's so sick.
You know, and today I had 3 drops, but then 3 people showed up. So we had 4 people.
Yeah.
And I just and basically no one had really played much of a part yet. So it was like, okay, this is a demo session instead. So it was like everyone rotates and played everybody once. And thankfully I had 6 tables set up, so it was 2 tables they moved.
That rocks.
So then they were done at 2, and that was a good early day.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Our buddy Eric played in your Thursday game.
Yeah.
And he immediately came and found me. He was like, dude, that was awesome. He's like, the fucking narrative was the best. So,
and Eric definitely came prepared with this really great Mobius inspired, because Mobius was kind of one of the artists that I suggested to kind of
he rocks.
find yourself around, and he came with that. It was a very interesting
That's so sick.
crew to come with.
Yeah. Hey, that's a great elevator pitch.
Yes,
That was going to the 25th floor. That was all the way up.
worth it.
How are you guys
Most of it was
going?
worth it for them.
Sure.
How are you enjoying Adepticon this year? New venue, new
It is-
everything.
It is big.
It's very big.
Yeah.
I found an area today that I didn't know existed at all.
The historicals?
That, which was an entire floor, and then I found where the painting area was. We just would come in and go to the right. We never went left.
Yeah.
And I went left today, found the painting area, and then I found where they were doing Lord of the Rings. And I found all the Lord of the Rings. I walked through a door, and all of a sudden, Howard Shore was blasting in the room, and all these dudes are playing Lord of the Rings and all these dioramas for Armies on Parade. A guy set up his army on a he built Helm's Deep, the Hornburg. That was his Armies on Parade board.
Wow.
And it was, 3 feet tall.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was very cool.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. How's your con going?
Great. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I always love Adepticon. I've been coming for like 20 years. And I'm always excited to see how the team is going to deal with any changes. So huge change moving from Chicago to Milwaukee. Massive venue, as you said, so many different places that nobody's going to find everything.
Right.
It's going to take people like 10 years to discover all the rooms.
Yeah.
Which is going to be fantastic.
Especially if you're working.
Oh yeah, if you're working in the vendor hall, yeah, you're going to get to know three places.
Right.
The vendor hall, the bar,
Yeah.
and the Grimdark hallway.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. Nate, so you stepped away from doing the 40K, the big 40K tournament? You used to do that here?
Because I was staff for generally the first day of champs, and then I was staff for team tournament.
Okay.
And then once they started doing the Armies on Parade, I kind of became the guy who was attempting to facilitate it for the first couple of years. Just like, we need tables, but the table's over here. A lot of it at Renaissance there was just the breezeway between the convention center and the hotel, and you had very little time to like get the food vendors moved over here. We got to move these tables over here. You need power. Oh, great! All of you. Eventually, basically, all these things have power. So I got to find power for everything. Where is the outlet here? Where is the power strip? Move this furniture over there. Trying to put people where there is light, because it was a very ambient area, which you could still see things. That's one of the probably the best things about the new location, for at least for Armies on Parade, is like they'll actually be light,
visible.
No, Dave has done judging or worked with other people for the judging before, so I'm sure he's encountered the dim.
Oh yeah. Just
atmospheric environment.
Like little flashlights.
Yeah, take flashlights, pull out phones. Yeah.
Hold a big Coleman lantern.
Last year I stopped doing it, and I just hung out basically over here in the alley, because various reasons of 40K being terrible.
You don't say.
Yep.
Did you pop into the tournament this year just to kind of see how it is in the new space?
I just went to see. I went through there to go through the vendor hall finally and talk to some of the other guys I know, that like Drew, who does staffing for the 40K events, and that was about. I saw, here's some of the dioramas, but I was like, the really good ones will be up later. Anyways, I'll just.
Oh wait.
I'll get out of here. I'm gonna go. I got to go over give more stickers over to Chris and Slow Death, and go find Badger Games.
Yeah. So needless to say, you like the narrative side a lot better than like what 40K is doing now, having these like kind of tournaments the way they are.
Yes. Yeah. The community, the competitive scene has really shifted over. Really has shifted to like a spike mentality. If you're kind of thinking about like Johnny, Timmy, really strongly. And I always enjoyed tournaments because it was people coming together, and you had everyone's neat stuff, but you're still playing games, having fun, and it's just really shifted to kind of one aspect of it, away from the sportsmanship and the painting and the storytelling. And I just don't belong in that anymore.
No,
so
totally.
I'll step off and go to something else that It's more.
Yeah, and it's like good on you to not try and force yourself into a box to be like, well, I guess if this is where Warhammer's going, I'm going to lean into that way, and be like, no, I'm going to pave my own path.
Yeah,
it was which you've been doing forever.
It was becoming a job that I wasn't getting paid for, and so I was like, okay, yeah,
why do it?
Yeah, I'll leave, and they can maybe they'll find someone else. We'll see.
I was going to say, Dave, we met at a narrative event.
We did.
Yeah. The Vestarian
last November.
Yeah, which was crazy.
Absolutely. I mean,
on so many levels. Yeah.
Even that, I barely got to talk to anyone at that. It's another thing of Adepticon and all these events. You barely get to hang out and really.
We only really got to talk because we are early risers and we're at the store before it was open.
Sitting on the stoop.
Yeah. I was like, hey, who's this guy? And I was like, holy shit, hi.
Now you have been in the scene for a while, one can say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
you've been around. Have you seen, just in the past bunch of years, have you seen a narrative event that really sticks out to you as being something like Vastarian or even more, just something that somebody kind of came up with?
I'm going to say I haven't. Vestarian was the first real independent narrative event that I've been to.
Okay.
I've spent a lot of time just stalking people on Instagram and seeing all the cool events going on in different places, and oh man, I wish I could have gone to that. Wish I could have gone to that. And then Adam sent me an email, Adam Wire, and said, hey Dave, we're running this event in Houston in November. I think he sent it to me in March last year.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, thank you. I need 6 months to plan this stuff. So
Yeah. Because you live close to him, right?
Yeah. We're 45 minutes away.
Right.
And I game with him every other Wednesday night.
Yeah.
But it was just really nice to get that invitation, to be able to plan, to come along, and just to get involved in the storytelling.
Right.
Which was just, it was so cool that people weren't worried about what the rules were.
Yeah,
the rules weren't there to get in the way of the storytelling. So,
were you on one of the tables where I don't remember who your opponents were, but were you on any of the tables that you got to do crunchy rules, or were you a 4-up or coin toss table?
Pretty much it was 4-up or coin toss, or that sort of thing. The first game, there were 3 of us on the, or 4 of us on the table. I think Craig was playing the defenders of the Harvest Lighter or something like that. But the rest of us were like, okay, well, do we just move each model individually, or do we move 3 or 4 at a time?
Right.
So we just moved them the way that it felt right. So, and just came up with a result that was a great story. So,
and it didn't take anything away to not. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Right.
It was.
I mean, talk about a crux of the pod and everything that we've done. Grimdark. It's the wires are.
Yeah.
Responsible for a lot of our actions as well.
Yeah.
So that plus we had mentioned the Art of series.
Right.
Now, how did that come about? How did you start? When did you come up with the idea to start doing books like that?
When I started my own business in when did I start my own business? 2014. And I've done a lot of layout, photography, editing, writing, all that sort of stuff. And I was working on 2017. I was working on a book, laying out a rule book for a World War II game, and I'd taken all the photos. I was editing the text that the author had written. I designed the layout, and I was just putting it all together. And it was I'm having a lot of fun. This is my jam. Bringing all these elements together and making it something that people are going to enjoy reading and understand the flow of the game. Sort of thing. I was like, that's cool. Maybe I need to do this for myself, but I can't write rules. So I was like, I know how to paint armies, so I wrote a book about painting armies called Armies and Legions and Hordes, and then self-published it, went through the whole Kickstarter process, but I wanted to do that for myself so that I wasn't screwing anybody over when I made the mistakes.
Right.
So I made a bunch of mistakes along the way, which is great, but after that it was like, I don't know that I can write another book next year. So I just started to talk to people whose work I really enjoyed, and the Art of series. I could work with some fantastic people, but Anna's book, Christoph's book, working with them, it's I've been watching their stuff on online for ages.
Yeah.
And it's like the creativity, like Anna's creativity and Christoph's creativity, and just the creativity across the community is just so inspiring. So I just wanted to sort of provide a different venue, I guess, for people to find their stuff. And so that's really what the Art Lab series is about. It's working with people to. I love a great origin story. I love to know processes and why people think the way they do.
Yes.
So asking those. I didn't want to. Also with the books, I didn't want to make a blanket like, here are 10 questions I want you to answer in the book.
Yeah.
I want each book to be different, and that was like just a really exciting thing. So when somebody says, "Oh, what do you want me to write about?" I said, "What do you want to write about?
Yes.
Tell me about your art."
And you could see that in the books. Like I have Anna's and I have Christoph's, and the books are. And I expected going into. I bought Christoph Kyle, right? Is how you say his last name?
Kyle, yep.
Christoph Kyle. I brought that book second. And I expected it to be pretty much the same layout as Anna's, and it's a completely different book.
Yep.
And you get different stuff out of it, like different inspiration.
Absolutely.
His work process is a lot more important in Christoph Kyle's book than in Anna's, where it's mostly about how she comes up with stories. So both of them are important in their own ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And somebody like Chris Surrey, who does fantastic sort of dioramas and display pieces, composition, light composition, shape composition is super important to him. So his book is mostly about that. And each person, like Eric Swinson, it's color, it's volume, it's cast shadows, light. So for each person, what the most important things are each different. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of putting things together, talking about putting together a scene.
I was going to say,
dungeon.
I need to hear the origin story of the dungeon, dude.
Me too, and I want to hear, and I don't want to give you too much at once, but I want to hear about your, like, the comparison between making a music scene and making, like, a Warhammer scene. You know, a local Warhammer scene.
Okay. It comes down to, I first started the dungeon, the first show was in July 2000, and in like 99 there was this great exodus that happened in the Wisconsin kind of like Minneapolis area, because Minneapolis was very strongly around the kind of crust scene. Profane Existence was from there, and that was a lot of organization happened there, and then through eastern Wisconsin, kind of in the Milwaukee area. And in like 99, over the summer of 99, I don't know how, like a ton of people just left and went to Portland.
Yeah.
Like a quarter of the people in Portland are from Wisconsin. I guarantee you. There's just all these people just vanished. And a bunch of the people who are, and then some of the guys were kind of sort of aging out and like moved to Madison, or they, I know what Nate Berg, he used to write for Maximum Rock and Roll, and he set up a lot of shows. He started his own like his own restaurant, and he just fell out of running stuff. And so there's no one doing shows. And I happened to have a very nicely opened basement that was actually my mother's basement. And so I said, well, if no one else is going to do it, you have to do it yourself. And that's always been
That's how it is.
very much my ethos in everything. Like, if you want to do something, you have to be the person responsible for it. Like, there's a great line from who is it? I think it's Lethal Aggression. They were New York hardcore band back mid '80s, and it's funny. I got their LP from like '85, a couple years after starting the dungeon, and one of their songs has a line, "If you want to have a scene, you've got to make a scene." And immediately I was like, whoosh. I realized, like, no, this is my philosophy and idea. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've always kind of been behind with doing things. And and then I started doing that. I think I first started doing just do RTTs in probably 2006. I was the guy kind of running those. And eventually we had like small GTs and around the area, around Eau Claire. Started doing like one a year, maybe like two. Like we get like 30 people, some local guys and a bunch of people from the States would come down, and maybe like a random person from Madison or some guys from La Crosse. And through that, I met a friend, Andy, who was friends with Chris Merstedt, who was the guy who ran 40K for Adepticon. And Chris was desperately needed more staff. And so he got Andy and me to do it. And we were both way too knowledgeable about 5th edition 40K. And so we got pulled in there and got pulled in and sucked into being staff for Adepticon, which is sort of a purgatory. I'm sure Dave can back that up to some degree from talking to people.
I've worked at a lot of Adepticons as well in the hobby area, and sometimes it's like, wow, everything's going really smoothly, everything's going really well, and then other times it's like, when does the shift end?
Yeah.
And so that's how I kind of ended up with Adepticon, and then with Renegade, because I was working at Adepticon, the other guys they've been planning at the point when they asked me to come on for like almost a year, which when you're trying to do a big, like, initially we want out the gate, want to do like a 70-person GT, and this was 13 years ago when they did that. Nowadays, like, I'm sure they'd be trying to do something like 120 because the events are just so much bigger now.
Right.
You need that. It's good to have that lead up time for various reasons.
Yeah.
And they asked me to come on because none of those guys had ever run an event. They were all just guys who were pretty big names in the Midwest, like 40K competitive scene, but like they weren't guys who built terrain. And that's largely what I do for Renegade now. Is I build a whole bunch of the terrain, and then I do set up and tear down.
I feel like every time you and I are in Discord together, you're talking about what terrain is next or what you're doing.
It's constantly adding stuff, or we're trying to replace things now.
Now, do your boards look like the boards upstairs?
Oh yeah,
because I went in that 40K room and some of it was bleak.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one reason why 40K is a terrible game, and I left. That they're just all that's what they want. They want their L's.
There were 5 rocks on a board upstairs.
Oh,
I'm not kidding.
That is also going. Oh, we ran out.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Hope you're not in the bottom tables.
I will say I'm on the Adepticon spray team, and each year we get together, and it's like 4 or 5 times a year at Hank's place, and spend 48 hours in his garage, like airbrushing terrain.
Yeah,
huffing paint.
That's
huffing
cool.
paint. Yeah, it's like watching like bad 80s movies, and his wife Diane makes us like biscuits and gravy.
Oh, cool.
And we just stand here like to paint. I think each weekend there's anywhere between like 20 or 40 tables of stuff being painted.
Since the pandemic, there's been a massive overhaul of the Adepticon scenery.
Yeah.
Massive overhaul.
Yeah, before the pandemic, we did like 1 a year, but now it's like 4 or 5.
Yeah. Wow,
it's crazy.
It's because all the events have only exploded since then.
Absolutely.
Trying to keep up with it is, I'm sure, difficult for Hank and the spray team to do.
Yeah.
All of it.
I think the one that I went to in January, we did. Me and John Schaefer and Dennis Johnson and a couple of other people. We probably did about 24 Age of Sigmar tables.
Jeez.
Now, just to reiterate, this is all volunteer work.
Yes. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So all
Absolutely.
the stuff that's up. How many people play in the 40K event?
I know generally I want to say that Champs is somewhere around 250.
250 people.
Wow.
Yeah, the team tournament is 120 teams.
Yeah, 4 people per team.
Yeah, so it is so that's almost 500 people.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and now since they're basically in the same section now, you have with Age of Sigmar and 40K, like today with teams, you have something like 700 people.
Yeah.
In one huge row of
And
tables.
some of the terrain can go between both games, but generally, 40K is 40K.
Yeah, and at this point, 40K it's a bunch of ruined Gothic buildings. Yeah.
There's a huge storage location, undisclosed location.
Ooh.
That's full of totes of like the black and yellow totes from
Massive
Yeah.
garage.
We know all about the black and yellow toes. Not in
We
that
do
degree,
know,
though.
yeah.
Not to that degree,
Absolutely.
Not yet.
Sorry.
Yeah, Hank's warehouse is quite sizable, and if an apocalypse happens, you should try and find it. It's pretty well stocked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come knocking
build,
on
you
that
can build
door.
many houses out of those,
Yeah.
those toads.
Yeah.
Turn on the. I think he's got Jupiters.
Yeah.
Turn on some of the Jupiters and
Yeah.
Fire them up.
make some resin swords and
Ghost guns and
Yeah,
there you go.
50 ghost guns.
We're ready. Speaking of changes in Adepticon, I think the first, maybe I'm wrong, but I think the first time I ever heard of Dave Taylor was old White Dwarfs, seeing your pictures of old Golden Demons.
Actually,
Is that true?
yes.
Okay.
But I'll
Right.
answer
You
for
were-
Dave here.
Thank you for
Thank
actually.
you, Gage. Thank you.
No, I remember. I just reached out to you a month ago.
Yep.
Someone in the Discord was talking about they got a Squiggoth.
Right. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was such a good
And they
story.
were like, "Oh, yeah, I've had this. It was mailed from one guy to another, but I think Dave Taylor made this sometime." And I was like, "I just met him." I was like, "Hold on 5 minutes." And I was like, "Hey, Dave, do you have any info on this?" And yeah, that was a crazy story.
Yeah. It was a Squiggoth that myself and Matt Weaver built when I was in work for Games Workshop Australia. It was like 97, I think, for the UK Games Day, 97, 98. And we got it. There wasn't the big Forge World Squiggoth. There was no rules for the Squiggoth, but they wanted to have it on a big display table that battled Big Tooth River. And Matt bought an elephant toy or something, or rhino toy or something like that, and did a whole bunch of conversion work. He built the Squiggoth, I built the Howdah, and then we painted it up and shipped it off. And it never came back to us in
Never
Australia.
saw it again.
Yeah.
Never saw it again. It appeared in White Dwarf, and then
That must have been cool.
30 years later, it appeared
Yeah,
in
someone's house.
Engaged
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Like, hey, Dave.
That's
That's wild.
Yeah.
Now, have you done other things like that for Games Days?
Yeah, we've done a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. I think, when was the first one? Like 98 was the first Australian Games Day that we ran, and we did, we tried to do like the year before, no, a couple of years before in the UK, they'd done the Ultramarines chapter, did the whole chapter display, and we tried to do something similar, but with like Crimson Fists, which in front of their fortress monastery where they were being slaughtered. So we didn't have to paint as many models.
Right.
But we did. We've done sort of big displays like that.
Oh,
kind of
cool.
Thing, so it's
No.
pretty wild.
Can you tell me, because I don't know, maybe you guys know, why did Games Day go away?
That's a good question. I don't know.
You don't know.
No, I think there was a time when sometimes those of us who used to work back there was like the kind of the dark times when Games Workshop really pulled away from interacting with the community, and they shut down all of the social media, shut down all the forums, and just so they could just each month put out White Dwarf or even Warhammer Visions. I'm super stoked that you guys are really cool on top of the Warhammer Visions copies. And then, it was just, I'm sure that they saw an effect on their sales for that, because back in the day when I was working there, we were always talked about the invitation to create. The whole idea that, okay, there are 1,000 Space Marine chapters, here are 10 of them. What do the rest look like?
Yeah.
That's a sort of switch. But by that time, it was like, no. Here are the chapters.
Right.
They're the ones you need to paint. You need to paint these guys blue and these guys green.
Yeah.
So I think cutting back on Games Day, or cutting out Games Days, was that part of that. Cutting out interaction with the Black Library authors, the studio painters, the artists, the game developers. It was just a real shame. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's got to be such like a big community event. You know, everyone comes in, they can talk to everyone.
Games Day is why I found the hobby.
I never even got to go to Games Day.
Yeah,
all I ever get to think about is all the Games Days in White Dwarf that I saw and never got to go to, and how cool it looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's why stuff like Adepticon is so great, because it's what we wanted Games Days to be, and what it can be now, because it's independently run, it's a community driven. People come together for that volunteering and running events and being a TO and putting in those hard yards. So,
Right.
Totally. And it's awesome that people on the Adepticon team, like Matthias, is such a cool dude. Like he's so down with everything that we're doing, and even like Shelly's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool seeing these people that are just down for the stuff that we're trying to do too, and supporting it so much.
Absolutely. I think it's that that idea of everybody's going to do. I always say for every hobbyist, there's a different hobby. We all do it for different reasons. We get something different out of little aspects, but sometimes we find a community where everything's very similar. But Adepticon's really down for approach, like finding or giving people an opportunity to find those different communities that are similar to what they love.
Oh, you think this is cool? Cool.
Yeah, we think it's cool too.
Terry and I were talking about that when we were walking around the historicals. It's like, we have the Grimdark Alley, and it's cool, but the the historical section is also like their Grimdark Alley, or like even offshoots of it, where it's like we're just doing the specific BattleTech event, and it's quote unquote unsanctioned, but it's still like this specific thing for these guys, and it's not.
And they got a ballroom.
They could do whatever they want anyway, and they're still doing their own punk thing offset of it. It's like that's the best part about this con.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everyone's so stoked. Like when I went up there, I was like, I was taking some video and stuff, and all those guys, anytime I'd be like, "Hey, can I take a photo?" And they're like, "Yeah, come talk to us." They like so stoked to talk about bolt action and about blood and plunder, or like their weird Napoleonic. Sorry, it's not weird. It is very cool. My friend Tyler loves it. And like. They're just stoked about playing games, talking about models, and there's so much. Tyler said it really well. Like there's so much heart in what they're doing up there, and that's
absolutely.
so cool.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we walked in, and the first thing Terry and I see is this guy's Insano Stargate homebrew.
Oh, dude, the portal thing?
Yeah,
man.
And we just sat there and talked to him for like a half hour. And I was like, do you have any... I was like, where can I find more? Do you have a zine, anything published? And he was like, nah, I'm just doing this for fun.
Yeah, he's like,
I shook his hand. I was like, your will? Cool, man. I'll see you maybe never, but this is the sickest thing I'll see today.
He was like hacking like a card-based system to
I think it's
play
called
his
Pulped.
own. Yeah, Pulp Alley, I think was the name of the card game. And it was just like cool. The way he was running it was like very loose, and he just seemed like he was hanging out and having a good time.
Yeah.
Yep. Just telling stories.
Yeah,
Literally,
absolutely.
Literally.
Yep.
Now, do you see shades of the old game days in things like Nate Dungeon is doing, like those kind of more
Like
indie, like Vastarian? Did that kind of have shades of the old game days, or was it something completely different?
I would say Vestarian was completely different.
Okay.
But Games Days were basically Games Workshop using staff and volunteers like the Outriders in the US to help create those opportunities, and create those tables, create those setups. So we'd invite clubs along to bring a table or two. Sometimes we had tournaments involved, but it was a different approach. Yeah, for sure, because it was that, okay, how is Games Workshop going to present Games Workshop's products in that way to people who play with Games Workshop products?
Yeah.
And when it can be independent, it's not restricted to that. So it's not Games Workshop's doing a really good job of trying to create their own bubble.
Totally.
Where the people inside the bubble don't get to see outside the bubble. They don't want them to see outside the bubble because they're worried that they'll walk away.
Yeah.
And
But you see it all the time, though.
Yeah,
all the
absolutely.
time.
Yeah.
I feel like the bubble is what's making people walk away itself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is. Yeah, for sure.
I didn't even know this existed.
No, unless the bubble is, of course, something that is sanctioned, like Adepticon, Nova, LVO, which they also use as promotional vehicles for
selling products.
and they're co-working together. So I think a lot of what exists in like LVO, Nova, those in Renegade, those exist because the Games Days went away, and that void was there, and people went, well, I want a scene, so we're gonna make a scene. To me, I'm fine with Games Days going away because it allowed people to do that because people didn't see anything else like that, and allowed us to start doing our own thing, and people just came into it. So I was fine with Games Workshop kind of doing it. Now at this point, you still, because I've been to some game days in Chicago, I really am nostalgic about the Games Workshop of the 90s that I grew up with. But that company 10 years, from like when I got in 94 to late 90s was great, but kind of getting to like 2007, 2008 was not a great company that you wanted to interact with. Very completely different company. And so when they just stepped back, we just filled the void. And I think personally, it's just better off. It's been
It's
better
healthier-
off.
healthier for the
It's
scene.
been better. It's been better because it's been better for everyone overall because these smaller games, smaller companies, smaller people like what you guys doing, what I'm doing, we've been able to get more notice, kind of grabbing on to like people independently doing 40K. Well, you get a big enough event with like Renegade. That was originally a GT for the first 3 years. And then I had been pushing to kind of bring in a local guy who was running War Machine, who was doing really well. And then we brought in a guy who was doing Infinity that people were really excited about at the time in like 2015. And then I was able to be like, hey guys, let's do a convention. Let's get a hotel. And,
Right.
That's why we've got 40K, Age of Sigmar, Bolt Action. We've got Batman. We've got 4 or 5 different other games going on. Totally taking up a hotel now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so when you were first running the Warhammer, like the 40K tournaments, you had probably more narrative. Were there narrative leanings to the early tournaments that you were running? And when 5th edition was here?
No, it was still pretty much the missions out of the book.
Okay.
There was nothing too different from it. I just think at that point there was still and being up in the upper Midwest, it's more so with was Warhammer Fantasy Battle than Age of Sigmar. There was still people who were still interested in, I feel, the sportsmanship and the painting, and then the kind of this way people interact with the story, and then just playing the game were more in
A different kind of gaming.
Yeah, they were more in the middle. It was all shared. Everything was happening at once. Everything was taking place. Especially the Warhammer Fantasy Battle up in that area between Wisconsin and Minnesota. Some of the groups there, like a event they used to do is called Wapaka. That's really famous. They were very much hard on like sportsmanship is the most important.
Yes.
Period. It is the absolute most important. Painting is the most important, and then gaming is last. Even though like everyone would come in there and they would play like really hard because a bunch of these guys would go to masters. Like these were all some of these guys were really good, but like all of the armies, like all of them look good.
Yeah,
all of them. Which 40K it's never been that way, but like all of them were like people were like putting their heart into showing up with a beautiful army, showing up and playing hard, but also at the same time like they just wanted to have fun. And all these guys, of course, it's in Wisconsin, so all these guys were alcoholics. Yeah. But
nice.
That's why that's why people cared about the event so much. Like it was so important to them. Like it was this really. That's what people cared about. Like a lot of these guys who did that. Adepticon's great, but Wapaka was their like secret. There was like 80 people who kind of knew about it, and like, it was their whole thing. And it was the big thing for at the end. And so there wasn't necessarily a narrative thing, but it was all inclusive. I mean, the most important thing is still like the best overall award, like who's showing up to best emphasize the entirety of
gaming,
the game,
painting,
the
sports,
hobby, everything, the experience.
So what takes you from kind of sweaty 40K to playing OPR Firefight, where you're arguing about trading shotgun shells for your map pieces?
Yeah.
Like what bridges that gap?
Because I've always been, I've done a lot of, I've played a lot of role playing systems, and I grew up with a few guys who were a few years older than me who were very pro role playing. Like you're getting to your character, like we're talking to our characters, we're doing that. In high school, I was involved in a really great Vampire the Masquerade
Sick
game at the local university. This one was like 96, 98.
What clan are you?
I'm Bruja.
Let's fucking
Really?
go.
You had to ask that question?
I just wanted to make sure.
Are you in
That's true.
Are you in the same room with us?
Bruja.
Just want to make sure.
Oh yeah. If you meet me at all, you'll realize real quick. Yeah,
Real Ventru, actually.
I not only was I Bruja, but I played my character Dez for so long that eventually they just made me the sheriff because everyone was scared of me.
That's sick,
good.
dude.
That's cool.
I should never have been the sheriff.
The real heads know right now.
I never did, I never plotted or schemed or anything, but everyone just knew from a couple instances that happened, like, just give them the badge and
Leave them alone.
It's all be good.
if we really need anything, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And that was really grouping that really kind of taught me and brought me. And I used to be I still am socially awkward to some regard, quiet guy. But that really was able to get me out. And then so I've always really loved getting into my character and playing my character. And like, what am I trying to do? Where am I trying to go? And that was what interests me a lot with 40K is that there's so many different things you can do. Like with the campaign, it isn't just like my guys showing up and fighting, but I've always wanted to do narrative stuff, like trying to, like, we need to move ammunition here, but we need to also make trade deals with people and interact. And so I've always been very much into like narrative. When I want to play 40K, like, why are we here?
Yes.
And I don't want to just be on a board. Like, where am I? I want to be in a place. Like, you know, that's I want to experience like what this conflict is. Where are we doing? What's going on?
Why does
here?
the terrain look like it does?
Yeah.
Why is it oriented this way? Why are we coming in from this angle?
Yeah. So you do a lot of pre-work then, probably, when you're playing these games.
Yeah, like this whole event I planned. I wrote up. This is what I want the table to look like because this place here. I'm trying to think some of one of the more interesting. Like one of them was this listening station that I printed off this big, tall, like, you know, foot tall satellite dish, and there's a smaller one, and I had so there's got to be some place for the person, like, they stay there while they're monitoring the station. So I had that, but it's kind of going to be, I want it to be on this play. I put it, it's the planet was Lang, so it's on this plateau, you know. So I just had some grassland around it. You know, that was kind of one example of it. You know, I had some cities that I want. One is going to be this frontier town, so it's a little spread out and there's less stuff. But one of them is going to be this really dense city, so it was just smashed.
Yeah.
And like in that game, you got like half your crew, but there's civilians all over the place in little groups, and so you're trying to catch this courier. Someone's got this package. We're trying to he's got sort of the mad fragments. We got to try and get him, but we can't just like go guns blazing because it's this big city and there's cops all around. Because eventually, when they get too loud, cops start showing up.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool.
A bunch of Anvil Industry guys that like future space cops that I painted up as Dread, of course, and Dread colors, and they show up and I made them fucking scary.
Yes,
big
fucking
gun,
scary.
big guy.
Yeah, they show up, Frontier Justice, and so that's super tight. So they're trying to move through, and the whole game is like, I'm going to move these guys in here, and you can't get through them. You got to try and go around the people. And I had some vehicles, like someone comes, parks in front of you, and they parked in the alley. I got to go around it, and so yeah. So I had planned out like I want it to look like this. I want this. I want the place to look like this. So I planned all that out. I had little snippets that I wrote up. So all you saw at first was a foam board and like the 6 different places you can go with a little. I found some picture on the internet or whatever. I put that there with a little snippet about it, which is either like just kind of describing what's going on. And some of it was a person, so I had that like italicized, and they're talking to you. Well, I heard there's a deal going on in the spaceship in the loading dock. The cargo's over there. Go get over there. Here's the code, you know. Or like I had one of them was a derelict ship that was breaking apart because it got sucked into the orbit of a gas giant, so it was like getting pulled apart. And you had to get in there as it's falling apart.
Oh, cool.
And that had like, you know, be in transmission, ... You know, functioning 13%. Just like it looked like some message I sent to you. So I had that listed. So you didn't really know what the mission was. You kind of think like, would that have fragments? Does that have loot? Does that is that cargo I can take? You know, whatever.
That's cool.
And then once you got there, I would throw the little sheet down. You know, and some of them. One table, like the frontier town where we went there, you're planning to go there, and you had some deal. There's a latinum delivery taking place. We're going to steal that, and then we'll go over here and talk to this guy. Which when you get there, the latinum's already been stolen, and you're driving through a dust storm for 3 hours trying to get to the town. And you get there, and there's other people there with guns. It's like, oh well, I guess we got to gunfight them. And so I had like clumps of, I ripped a pillow apart, like 3 clouds, like, you know, I don't know, like 8 inches diameter, and every turn you roll 3d6 and they'd move across the table.
Well,
and they'd
yes.
recycle and they'd move through doing that. So
cool.
There's lots of things like that. One of the games, a dinosaur also shows up.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Hell
it's got
yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean.
You
Makes
writing this
sense.
all down for campaign next month?
Yeah, it's all up here, dude. It's all, putting it all in the vault. Yeah, this is awesome, though.
Say, Nate, you've always not always, but you've for a while been posting these like really nice vignettes of just like real macro shots of the immediate one that comes to mind. I believe it's Terminator.
The Terminator, dude.
Coming in you have like a doorway on your Instagram. I don't remember the Marine. It's definitely Marine, I believe.
Because there's I know I've got one where some guys going down a hallway. I have another one, which is for War of the False Primarch, where it's like he's blown through the door and there's fire behind
Yes,
it, like
that's
lit
the
up.
one. Yeah. What I mean, because everybody knows Instagram is not important, but what to you made it important to you to be posting those? Because that was arguably the most inspiring thing I've ever seen on Instagram.
When the pandemic happened, I was supposed to be off that week for Adepticon, and I was like, oh well, it literally happened.
Yep.
You know, it's Tuesday, and we're like, what is going on? What's going to happen? What's going to happen?
And then Wednesday hit.
and then you know, because I think it was Monday or Tuesday, we're waiting to happen, and then the governor comes on for Illinois and says we're shutting everything down. I was like, oh. Shit, like 2 days before we were supposed to go to Chicago.
Yeah.
And I was playing, that was the first year I was going to run the multi-tiered game.
Yes.
With Titanicus and then 40K.
Because you do the zoom out thing that we've been talking about forever.
Yeah. We were going to do that, and I was just totally just broken about because I'd been killing myself for 2 months trying to get everything last stuff, everything done. And so I was like, you know what, I could just go back to work and just cancel my vacation time, whatever, for later on. But I was like, whatever, this is pain. I'll just. So I decided I'm just going to totally read through the entirety of Death of Rubus's blog, which is this amazing blog that everyone should go check out.
Yes.
He's a decade of really fantastic writing and story creation. And so I just started reading all of it. And I'd been interested in doing True Scale Marines, because I hate Primaris. That's the long story. I'm a Space Wolf player for 30 years. It was a knife in my heart, and so I started doing that, and then I talked to a friend of mine. Brian knows Lexicon on various social media all over the place, and he was in their Facebook group. And okay, cool. I pop in there, and that's about the same time that Apologist, or Ed Ralph, which is really was beginning the War of the False Primarch project, which it's a blurb in Volume 2, the Imperial Armored Volume 2, which is basically Space Marine equipment and tanks, and it's just this little thing about in the end of the 33rd millennium, apparently on the western portion of the galaxy, this guy comes up and says, I'm one of the returned Primarchs. And the Imperium goes, no, shut it down. And apparently 12 chapters joined up with them. And so they sent 5 other ones, which was some of the ones that they are kind of Space Sharks are one of them. I know one of the Blood Angel successor that Alan Bly's created, that was his. So they go in there, and no one really knows what happens, and this conflict goes on for 100 years. And that's it. That's all they give you. It's totally lost. It's all they know. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to get a bunch of people together because no one can do anything else.
Right.
And we're just going to make this cool, neat... We're going to talk about it. We're going to create it. This might be the truth. This might not be. And that's really... His style is really good at that. He really gets that idea of that in 40K, the galaxy is enormous. No one knows anything.
Yeah.
No one knows anything. Not even the people on top truly know anything at all. And this could be made up. It could be a lie. It could just be a false. It could be misunderstanding, miscommunications with the writings we have, the images we have. And so they just started creating these really cool chapters, these really things, and sort of starting to tell an effort, okay, yeah, I want to get in on this. And I decided everyone's doing Space Marines. I don't want to do Space Marines. So I created this group called Umathron Urwadon Confederacy, which is it's a confederacy. It's a group of various sundry people who had formed a political entity to support one another. And so I was doing them, and I made a decision, because Ed does some really nice photography with his models and putting them in a scene and doing stuff. I am going to do that the best I possibly can, and I want to do everything as practical as possible.
Yeah.
That there's very little digital. Most of the time, any digital work I do is to simply usually remove flight stands on spaceships on some of the space stuff I've done. Right. There's almost nothing that I do to it. And so I've really been working at trying to make something look as real as possible.
Right.
In the images that I do, make them feel like it's an actual
I love
place.
It,
that Terminator photo is perfect. It's so cool. It paints such a good I don't know. I can't even get it across. Like when I first saw it, like when Gage sent it to me, he's like, "You got to look at this." And I looked at it, and I instantly was in that world.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
The POV is perfect.
To give a quick description of it, people, of course, can go to @NateDungeon on Instagram. I use some Death Ray design, sort of ship walls, Zomertal stuff. I doubled it up, and I put a roof. That's the big thing, like in interiors. If you put a roof on something,
yes,
it immediately
it
immediately feels like a photograph.
Yes,
because it feels real then. And I put a roof on it, and I had used some because there's some broken pieces for the scenery, and then I ripped up some more out of the pillow, put it there, and then I took my iPad and I just found some fire, put pause so it's bright and glowing, set it, I propped it up in there so it looks like it's projecting light outward, so it feels like fire. And then you just cut some holes. I have these kind of like puck lighting meant for like, ambient lighting in like rooms, and I just put those over top of the holes that I cut that are the ceilings lighting. Yeah. And there you put some cargo around. Put some so it's knocked down. Chopped up some paper, found some pebbles or rocks that are light enough. Paint them, the color of the wall, and you put it around its feet so it looks like it's debris from the wall, the door being blown out. And then you just kind of get. I take so many photos when I do it, just trying to get the right angle and the right coloration.
The focus,
And I tend to, everything I do, the way I have to light my room, like I do it at night, just so like I don't worry about any light at all. And then that's how I did interior ones and outer stuff. I just have some like swivel lamps I set up to look like the sun.
Yeah, man, they're the best. And it's like bringing it back to the new art of book, the 28 book. The narrative side of the hobby, I feel like could definitely be analog documented a lot better.
Right, yeah.
I mean, the 28 one, I think is going to be, I don't know the specifics of what's in it, but clearly we would know what 28 mag is. I think that's going to do a great job to really get it into people's hands to see.
I know. After the first Kickstarter, when you put out the kind of the survey about it. Yeah. My first suggestion was about the 28 community because I noticed this too. It's such this niche thing that I had known about and kind of stumbled upon on Ammo Bunker kind of around that time, and I was aware of these people and who they were. And there's some like Isaac who's from Chicago here. I've talked to him before, and I was really hoping Dave would get into doing that because it was a good presentation, and no one was cataloging it. But I saw the stuff in the Ink 20 community, and I thought, this is the most amazing. Like Isaac brought his navigators one year. He was playing in champs, and I'm walking around judging. I see it, the army, and me like, I just stop. And I'm like, it's right. They're here. These things that I'd see on the internet that are just his navigator army is like one of the most amazing, amazing projects ever with 40K. Like that really seeing that the first time really like blew me up, and like this is how I feel about 40K how I see it. So I was really hoping that Dave would get around to being able to do that because as you said, they're not at all.
No.
When the first issue of 28 mag dropped, I was like, this is fantastic. When are you guys doing a printed version of this?
Yep.
I want to hold this in my hands, and I want to leaf through it slowly, and I want to look at all these wonderful photos and read these stories, and they're like, well, it's going to kind of be an online thing for a little bit. And I was like, okay. The second one drops, and I was like, hey, when are you guys going to do a printed version of this? So when they contacted me and said, hey, Dave, would you like to do a printed version of this? And I was like, yes. Love to. So, it was definitely...
Yeah, no, it's the best.
You're absolutely right. It's that... I think we're all part of that. We want to tell stories. We want to make this thing. There's that tradition of storytelling, and physical, tactile things, which is why we play with miniatures.
Yes,
we're not just doing this online. We're doing it with miniatures. We're creating something. We're painting. We're making scenery. We're interacting with people in real life. So we're sitting across the table here in a crazy service hallway, right?
Yeah, as the elevator or the fridge kicks on behind us.
So, yeah, that's what we do. We're tactile people, and we want that tactile connection to stories and images and things that people are doing, that creativity that we can be inspired by. That's why I've been doing the books. That's what I really love, and want to be able to do that for people who also love it in that way, that presented in that way. But yeah, I'm super excited about the 28 collected book.
Yeah, man.
Great.
If a more narrative book came out after it,
I think there are a ton of options. And I'm open to most of them. Yeah. So happy to talk to anybody about
it. Yeah, that's cool dream come true shit, man. That'd be so cool.
I'll be happy to buy more books if you keep doing cool stuff.
Sweet, that's good as well. But I do love. For me, it's that having that item at the end, that artifact.
Yes.
Where it's all there, it's all together, and people can enjoy it and be inspired by the work that other people in the community are doing. That's what I'm really excited to be able to bring to the table.
I think the physicalness of it also adds so much to it. Like when you hold it in your hand, like 28 is great, but I think for me it loses a lot having to scroll through a PDF. Like I don't read half the articles because I like my attention span to look at a screen and read
it's so much easier to just flip a page nonchalantly on a digital.
Yes. Yeah, but to flip like 80 pages is very different.
Yes,
it's a different approach. Yeah. So that's one of the things I love about physical rule books as well.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing to finally get.
I know. I'm gonna read it in bed. That's why I like a physical book. I read it in bed. So
I should too after.
It's kind of to tie these two things together. So I had mentioned before, Golden Demon.
Yep.
That's where I first heard your name. I don't even know where it was, but in one of the White Dwarfs, your name was in there on some miniature, and I don't even remember what it was. I don't remember if it was a group or what. But how much back in the day were you tying stories into the minis that you were painting for Golden Demon?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah. It's that thing when you're creating something that you want to put into a competition where it's going to be compared against other things, or it's going to be celebrated by people, or you find the opportunity to try and find other people that like the same stuff. That story is important. That idea of putting stories into armies, into squads, into single minis and little dioramas. I think it's really important. Why is that blood a different color? What sort of alien has been involved in this?
What's he
confrontation?
fighting?
Yeah, what's just out of scene? All those ideas. I'm always a big fan of that sort of stuff.
Do you have a stand? Like, is there something that you've painted forever that you think kind of stands out? Probably something that you entered in Golden Demon, but something that you think stands out as like, oh, this was either a cool original idea, or I just like a really badass paint job or converting.
I don't know. For me, I got to admit, a lot of it is it's the process. I love the journey. Sometimes you get to the destination and it's like, this place isn't as cool as I was hoping it was going to be, but the journey was the cool thing, the road trip. So for me, all my armies and the pieces I work on, it's that sort of relaxing during that journey. I've got a lot of stuff that it's like I build an army to play a game with, or play in an event or whatever, but if it doesn't happen and those models never see the table, that's okay.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, that's cool. I got to make some cool stuff along the way. So, I never really sort of fully considered stuff at the end. Like, I can't go back and say, what was the best journey? I don't know either. There's a lot of cool stuff.
That's cool.
I love that. Now, I'm sure that the answer is probably a lot, but how much has Golden Demon changed from, I guess early days of Golden Demon to now?
A lot.
Okay, there we go.
No, there's definitely stuff like particularly like the internet, social media, things like Patreon, even more recently, is just becoming incredible. Where the amount of information that can be accessed by people, like when I first started running Golden Demons in Australia, it was White Dwarf. White Dwarf was what inspired
Yeah.
people. And if you happen to know somebody who was a really cool painter, you could sit down and talk to them. There was a stage during the late 90s, early 2000s where the top painters were not particularly forthcoming with information. But there's been a complete switch on that as well, where it's just like everybody's really excited to talk about cool miniatures and how things are done. There's going to be several thousand people over the weekend that spend a lot of time in front of the Golden Demon cases upstairs.
It's also one of those niche things like we're talking about of like the Grimdark Alley and the historical section. There's the Golden Demon crew. That's all they're here for.
They're just here for it, and their joy is to put their entry in, have a look at their friends' entries, and stand there and talk about painting cool toy soldiers for 4 days. 4 days, yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
So that's I think that's one of the biggest things is that it's finding your people,
right?
And which is a lot harder to do right at the start, and the top end painters there were few and far between. But now we've got a lot of fantastic painters. There's a lot of painters going through their journey and finding things that work for them and stories they want to tell. If you look at stuff like Andy Wardle, is a fantastic painter, but he just keeps pushing his story approach now. So everything he's doing, each of his pieces is there's a story behind it, and he's getting to the point where the stories are nice and subtle, but some of them are subtle, some of them aren't subtle, but you can just explore the piece. Yeah. And then you take that idea of exploring that piece and you apply it to the next piece and the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. So, a lot.
Yeah. Do you think people are more exploratory now as far as things than they were back in the day?
I would double that question to say as far as kit bashing and painting.
Right. I think I'm going to say probably the same percentage of people who explored kit bashing and storytelling and creativity back in the day is probably similar now. So there's a lot of people who are still getting that part through that part of the journey where they aren't feeling like they're not feeling confident enough to create something different or create something new or take that next step. But there's a point along the way where you go, I'm going to do my own thing, or I'm really excited about this and take it down a different path. So, people are still like, I'm going to paint this like the box art.
Yeah.
That's cool. But there's another point where they're making that creative leap.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As far as armies go that you've made, do you have like a standout? Is there like, and this might be the same answer you gave before, but is there an army that you're particularly proud of that you've painted over the years?
I like a lot of them, to be honest. But the one that people, if the question was, what do most people know you by? It would be the Genswick 33rd rifles that I did. In 2003, I bashed together the Bretonian men-at-arms and the Cadian plastics to make like a World War I trench, really like grimdark army. And that's what a lot of people know me for. And there was a really visceral reaction to them. So I've had a lot of trouble actually capturing that again, that visceral reaction from people.
What do you mean about like what were some of the reactions?
Oh no, I mean not visceral in as like people were angry about it or reacted madly about it.
How could you?
It wasn't that, but people felt something in their gut.
Okay,
they may not have been able to describe what it was, but there was a connection that they felt to it, and I don't know what it was or why. But that kind of approach.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I just to say, like, the first person to really make me like realize like how you can like just take things and change them up and mix around like the kit bash thing was Dave. It was your Third War for Armageddon. It was the Chem Dogs.
Oh, Savlor Chem Dogs. Yeah.
When I first saw those that you had done like in White Dwarf, they were in like immediately was like, wait a minute. That it opened up everything. Like I can really like I would do stuff with my Marines like move their arms around like repose them, but that really turned something I really I can really like go all out with this.
Just quick story on those. That year there was it was 2000 I think. I came over to the US. I hung out with the guys at the US studio for like a week. I'd been on vacation with my parents in Alaska and then flew over to Baltimore, and they were like, "Hey Dave, while you're here, do you want to do a little bit of content for the Third War for Armageddon campaign. And I was like, sure, I wonder what I could do. And there were all these the cool images in there by like Alex Boyd and Paul Dayton and John Wigley and those guys. I was like, okay, cool. Oh, there's a bits room. There's a room full of bins of metal bits.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Expand on that for a second.
Yeah.
Well, back when there was a whole bunch of metal miniatures and they're in blisters and box sets and that kind of thing. They're all in the US. They're produced in Baltimore, and there's a room. Basically, you produce. I don't know. My mind's gone blank.
Yeah.
They were tank riders. They were Imperial Guard tank riders, right?
Yep.
Each of those tank riders was in a separate tub, and those tubs were all on racks. And so you could walk along and go, okay, I want to get have 15 Blastmasters for the Emperor's Children, or I want those blades from the chariot wheels from the Chaos Chariot. You could just pick those things out. So I basically took that artwork, walked through the bits aisle, and was like, oh, that bit looks good. Oh, that
Holy
bit looks
shit,
good.
that's so cool.
So to then, over that week, like kit bash six models, paint them up, and leave them with the guys, and they photographed them, stuck them in White Dwarf, and
then blew your mind.
and then
and there wasn't just the foot guys. There was the guys riding the lizards that they have for the Rough Riders,
Oh, cool.
which were probably like cold ones or something. That
they were the I think from the they're from Gorka Morka. They were the beauties from Gorka Morka. Yeah.
That is so cool. How big was this goddamn room? It must have been huge with all these bins.
Well, it's about the size of this service hall area.
All right, that's a big freaking area.
There was one time where something happened. Somebody was like roughhousing in the room, and they knocked over one of the racks. Oh my god! And when you have a rack that's super heavy and it's like about 5 feet tall, and it's going to fall over and hit the next rack that's like 4 feet away,
Dominoes.
and the next one.
Oh shit!
So there was a moment where it was like, okay, we're just going to sweep all this up and put it in a bin and take it to Games Day.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
There's the bits bin.
Yep.
That's insane.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Holy shit.
But so that was the bits room. But it definitely facilitated in some cool conversions. A lot of fun.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, being able to push and pull from that. So you had mentioned the navigators blew your mind.
yeah.
That's the, like, you talk about visceral reaction. Like when I saw those navigators for the first time, or even at Visterion, when I saw Isaac's navigators there, like you feel it when you look at it, and you're like, this is Warhammer.
because it's Isaac. So like a lot of what he does is inspired by Mobius. Like he has this stuff that touches there. It's Mobius, and it's Dune, but it has that forgotten tech aspect of that I love so much about 40K. Like we have this technology, but very few people really kind of get it or understand it, and so there's just this little touch to it of like a mythic time, and it just felt so appropriately the way and weird.
Yeah.
There's that unsettling, slightly unsettling weirdness for the world. For someone in our time going to the future, that's normal for them. For us, it's not.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, and it's not. And it so perfectly captured like how I view 40K.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And he was doing that was so different from pretty much anything you'd see at the time.
Yep.
At all.
The way Isaac talks about design language is amazing. The shapes, things that he works with on.
Just when you
His bits are crazy.
Recently, when he's been making the mechs for Flames of Orion, like he talks about like how he sees shapes and he puts the shapes together.
We got to peek through his sketchbook.
Oh my god, his
Historian.
sketchbook was insane.
And he's excited to tell you about. First of all, listeners, Weirding's Way. If you don't know, he's excited to talk about the volume up and down button on the old iPhone headphones that you would plug in. He said they're the perfect shoulder bit.
Yeah.
The leg plate, it's the perfect scale.
That he mentions that often when he's talking.
It is
I've read that multiple times from him.
Yeah, it'd be a real special thing to be able to see things in this world like he sees stuff.
Yes.
Because, well, you'd probably just collect a lot more garbage, though.
yeah. His bit's been probably rocks.
Yeah, you would need a room about this size to hold all the random little iPhone volume up and down buttons.
Well, he just posted one of the mechs. He doesn't post a lot on Instagram anymore, but he posted that nanobot one that he did, and it's like cubes breaking down, but it's like half of a face, like a sculpture face, and there's like cubes coming out of it, and it's so bizarre to look at, but it conveys such a story and like a feeling when you look at it.
Yeah.
You kind of recognize what it is, but you don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah,
it's wild. Love it.
Instantly otherworldly.
Yeah, 100%.
And kind of to go along with this, Nate, and what I was going to ask before is, like, you have these kind of people that have blown your mind because they've taken 40K and they've done something different with it. Have you done a narrative thing, and it might just be kind of the answer that you gave before, but have you done a narrative thing that you think captures 40K but from a very different viewpoint?
I mean, if it would be anything, it would be the cinematic game stuff that I've done through Adepticon.
Yeah.
The zoom in stuff?
Yeah, which is lots of people. I'm sure tons of people have talked about doing it beforehand.
Yeah.
And that came together actually at Renegade Open 2018, the idea of it. When I was talking to Chris and Jason from 40K staff, they'd come up for it. And I was talking about Titanicus. They just asked me, because it was new at that time. It had just come out, literally just come out weeks, I think, prior to that.
Yeah.
And I was, as soon as they kind of, a couple of years, 3 years prior, they'd hinted at it. I was me yes, this is the most exciting thing possible. It's also the best game Games Workshop has ever produced.
Really?
So everyone knows. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into
It's
that.
amazing. It's great. And I was just talking about it, and then I think Chris was drawing something. He kind of what if we had there's a Titanicus battle here, and we had the games in it, and then we spent the next 3 hours in their hotel room, talk the concept of what it could be and how to do the event, and then they kind of just let me take it and go with it. But the idea for listeners is, with the Fronts of War idea is you have a Titanicus game. So you have all these Titans walking around, they're fighting, say in a city, some environment.
What's the scale of Titanicus again? It's
it'd be it's epic scale now, so it's really 6 to 8. I mean, generally a Marine is 8 millimeters, and a person's roughly 6 millimeters. And so you have these Titans fighting in an area, and then within that you kind of have a designated 2 spots that are there's 2 40K games going on, and they're right alongside the Titans. And then you have Kill Team, Combat Patrol, some small skirmish game that can rotate quickly and fast. And some guys can keep playing that, and you just give them and also the thing we're doing this idea is we supply everything. We supply everything with it, so we are in full control of the narratives taking place.
Okay.
All the Titans, the armies fighting, the characters in the armies, even the kill teams. And the idea is for the smallest skirmish thing, you have a couple teams. Here's the mission. Which one do you want to use this round? And people can go back and forth in those games. And so the idea is the kill teams are going and doing these little missions. And when they do it, they get, for 40K, stratagems or points. They can do some sort of effect in the game that takes place.
Giving a bonus to the factions.
Yeah, one of the things is they go through and they sabotage something in this building on the other side where the enemy falls down, so it blocks off an area so they can't get tanks through. Something like that. Right. And so there's little things going into it. And then 40K that's really where the story is being told, is the 40K game, because they have little things coming into them. And then, this is kind of going, they have some communications, I need this done with the other tables, a little bit of communication with that. And then the big thing is the Titanicus game, because you suddenly have these kaiju running around your armies doing things, and so it creates all these macro cinematic things that happen. If a Titan explodes, it falls down, it knocks a building over, stray shots happen, and the other teams, they're just doing their thing, and then it just all comes apart.
Yes.
In certain places. And you could do this in a fantasy game, say super high fantasy, the 40K games, you have this, it's up in the air. And you have big balloons flying around and big dragons fighting going around. But then there's like some floating cities or, some floating islands. Like Age of Sigmar has tons of this stuff. It's like floating islands. Absolutely. And some of these floating islands over here are on the games there. So like you might have some dragon come by and just breathe through the whole like line of the table. Like that's the concept of doing it. It doesn't matter what the setting is. You just, one of them needs to be big and large in like this epic cinematic situation, and the people around it. Because the 40 games are important, but the Titan game is the one that creates these big, huge moments. And then the smaller games are the ones that give you these little things coming in, taking place that are really game mechanic driven.
Now, are you as a facilitator, are you GMing, like overwatching, like, oh, okay, the Titan thing just happened. Yeah. Something happened. Okay, I'm going to go over here and now fuck with this.
You definitely need like 2 to 3 people
GMing.
Yeah, so definitely constantly moving things around for this. And you're trying to keep the games all moving at roughly the same pace. It isn't like totally important, but you just want to keep moving there. So that sometimes if something was happening too quickly, we'd be like, here's some dudes.
Oh, here's some extra guys.
Yeah, here's some dudes that pop down.
Reinforcements.
So you can just keep them going a little slower. You do something so someone is tougher and more bonus. You do something that to buffer them up, or like they're going a bit slow, blow their shit up.
Yeah. Real role-playing game stuff going on.
Yeah.
Explosions start happening behind them. They stop moving forward.
Maybe someone's not moving towards an objective. Like, give them a reason towards this objective you need them to move towards too. It's like, because you need 2 or 3 people, because you need to be understanding like what is going on between everything going. So it's there's a lot involved, especially when you're supplying 1,500 points of 3,000 points of of Titans, and then 3,000 points of 40k. I mean, actually, sorry, 6,000 points of 40k armies on both tables, and then these other ones, and the scenery and the train, and you want to make sure that they're themed kind of around it. So the first year we used my Space Wolf collection, which is over 4,000 points, and then Chris Mercet's Word Bearers, and then like all the Titans that I have, and some other stuff.
Yeah. Now we're going to cycle back around to this, but Dave, you had mentioned do you have to split?
Yeah, I've got to run off in a minute.
Before you leave, anything or tell people where they can find you, anything about yourself, any things that you're working on next to keep an eye out for.
Anything you want.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anything you want to say.
Yeah.
Sure. No, thank you. Dave Taylor Miniatures is... I must admit, I never grew up playing video games, so I never ended up with any cool online handles or anything like that. So just my name and miniatures, because miniatures is the most important thing that I do. Actually, I just realized I'm a dad. That's probably the most important thing. So,
Tandem.
Yeah, it's in there. They're up there together. Dave Taylor Miniatures. I do a live stream, weekly live stream with my buddy Jake called Build Paint Play. We do that on YouTube. Publishing books and that sort of thing. I think the next 28 collected. We still got the the backer kit open, so you can go to backer kit and search 28 collected. I'm really excited to sort of get that into people's hands.
We're all excited to get it.
Yeah, so it's good. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
But thanks very much for having me on. This was a blast. Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation.
A highlight for us.
Yeah,
seriously.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and thanks for the inspiration or whatever.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. Okay, guys. I will catch you later.
Get out of here.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, sneak out while you can.
It's funny hearing about that though, because it makes me instantly. I thought, on a much smaller scale, like the Brothers of Prometheum thing, like you guys are at one end GMing like what was happening at the far end of the table, and then I'm running around with like the other guys with the Valkyrie at the other end of the table and like trying to coordinate. And that's like, even just that, granted it's 40 people around one table,
right? Yeah.
So it's a little different, a little harder, or maybe just harder to like get around the room,
Yeah, it's a different situation. It's a different obstacle, but
but it painted so many small cool pictures that every time I talk about that event, that like that mission, everyone has a different cool thing.
I learned a news story this weekend about what was happening. It was Tyler talking about a battle that's happening on the other side of the table during the gas stands thing that I didn't even know about. So it's ridiculous.
I'm so upset I missed the whole oil refinery like jumping around fight, because I'm just coordinating the guys in that corner that were just shooting each other.
Yeah.
Now, Nate, do you have ideas for new narrative things that you want to do in the near future?
I've got a bunch of stuff for next year. I've been thinking about just continuing ideas. Like I really want to do kind of what I want to do is I really want to do an event. I'd like to be 12 people, but I want there to be like a group of 4, and they're different factions. And kind of my idea, like one of them, like a science fiction one, is like there's a mega corporation. One of their ships got lost. They know the last signal came from this system. We're gonna go get there. Well, there's another like mega corporation. We got to get that their guys' ship. And then there's like space pirates or like some sort of inquisition or like government body who's like, what are they doing? What's going on here?
Yeah.
This is strange, And then they go there, and do team games where there's like 3 scenarios, so there's like 3 scenarios, and then people have to be like, oh well, you guys and you guys should go there, and you guys should go there, and they're kind of competing to go to different places.
Oh yeah.
But I'm really intrigued by the idea of doing more kind of team games where people are working together.
Absolutely.
Just in that experience, it's not just like these 2 people, which was fine, but it just seems it's an interesting thing to have 2 people working together, just a team, and then they get to work with the resources, and you send these other guys over to this other place. And I'm still kind of on the idea also, but working with. I'm intrigued. I need to look into it more, but I'm intrigued by the quest system for OPR.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so fun.
We've talked a lot about wanting to try it at least.
Because that's built in where there's a system built in with the PvE, and so I could have some tables where these groups are going to be fighting, but other ones where like only one group gets to go over there and they're fighting an enemy, or you have 2 single players there, but there's also a built-in enemy to the table, and so there's this dynamic of push and pull there. And so I've kind of got that idea of doing like in fantasy service level stuff. But
have you played the quests or anything? Have you messed?
I haven't done anything with it yet, but I know when they first talked about it, it was interesting. I had a lot of ideas kind of around with it.
I've played it a couple times now. It is very fun. It gets hard. It's like as a player, it's difficult, but like you can kind of you can mess with it to scale it.
Yeah, the 2 sessions I played, I think it in its current state really relies on a mindset like you have, Nate, where it will benefit you as a GM or storyteller to do the heavy lifting of mechanics and whatnot, where you can kind of create the narrative and the battles that are happening and the stories that are being told. In its current state, I don't think it really has a...
There's no narrative. We may call the narrative.
It's like guys come in on the corner of the table, click next round. They don't come on in this corner. They come on the next corner. So
or they don't come in at all, and you're still dealing with a very dangerous enemy. Yeah. But if you have a GM, if you're the guy that's putting them on, it's like, all right, these guys are marauders coming in. They're going for that thing that you're also going for. You give them the narrative prompts or the ability to trade resources, talk to someone, or whatever. I think it benefits you as a GM to be able to step away from the table a little bit and give you more space.
It just needs to set up and remove the terrain for you to make it really easy, and then
and then I've 2 other things. One is I'd really like to do an invitational kind of 12-person kind of with a team idea for War of the False Primarch using Grimdark Future, just because I really want to do an event for this setting that I think is way more interesting than Horus Heresy in 40K, that has kind of more expansive what you can bring into it.
Yeah.
And it's very open because it's meant to be no one actually knows. No one, same as Horus, no one should really know. It's so long ago, but it's a project that I've really been intertwined with and really think it's a neat kind of historical little blurb. So that's something I'd like to see happen, where people very specifically are bringing in armies themed around that. And I'm waiting on it because it isn't out yet, but Nick Evans' most recent Kickstarter, Land of the Sundering Flood.
Yeah.
It seems interesting. I kind of want to run an event for that, just because that's really off the wall. That I don't know how many people know about it. I don't know how many people would draw, but some definitely I'd have to kind of sell on people over the year. But once a game comes out, I'm kind of looking at it, and there's things about it that seem interesting that I kind of like to run something like that.
Right. Can you talk about what that is? Because I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the best person for it, but So Nick Evans, Mammoth Miniatures, right?
Yeah.
He just did a Kickstarter. So he's writing rules for a game around. It's called Land of Sundering Flood, and I've read his background, but I won't be able to remember a bunch of. There's a particular author. It's going off of his writings, and he was really the first guy to do how we perceive modern fantasy, like the way people speak, that kind of like archaic British way people kind of joke about speaking in Forsooth, and that was really his thing, because they were medievalists who were harking back to that time, kind of harking back to Camelot, harking back to this British mythology, and it's his setting. And the writer was around during the time of the arts and crafts movement, and so his writing and then the art that went along with it is along with that, which is what Nick Evans is obviously following. His major influence is arts and craft movement. And so he's just like, I'm just going to make a game for this, these sort of at this point forgotten, obscure historical fantasy author who might be like really the first fantasy author as we perceive fantasy authors. And so that's kind of what, it's going to be a little 32 page book that he puts out. Kind of like, the initial Planet 28 and
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Just this presentation, it's neat. I'm just kind of, I think it would be a fun thing to actually like be the first person to maybe actually run an event using this thing and just throw it out there and see what goes on with it.
Yeah.
I got one last question before we probably like start closing off, and you'll tell us all the good stuff that you're doing and all that. You have made a major switch from 40K to OPR. Like that was like, are you getting everything you want out of OPR, and that's why you've moved away from 40K, or do you think that you would ever go back to 40K?
I mean, everything I've been doing with it is just still set, in the 41st millennium.
Yeah, we do the same thing.
It is a setting that I've been enthralled with since I was like 13.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I've left 40K because it is just not. I don't belong there anymore, as we've talked about. I just don't belong there anymore. They're doing it. It's become something else, and I'm just okay. That's fine. Time for me to leave.
And in OPR, you find the rule set that you're able to facilitate the 40K games.
I think I've gone with it, especially with running the event, because it's the most accessible rule set that exists. Period. The rules are free, because all we used for the event was the first page. I just used some of the advanced rules for wounding, and I just went in and put that in on the sheet, printed off. It was out there. And then, so the rules are the most accessible for free, and then the army builder is the best out there.
That's so fun to use.
Absolutely.
And free, and everyone can use it. So that was the easiest way for me to promote it. And it's a game, there's 2 stats. Like, it's pretty easy to learn how the game works.
Especially when everything's a keyword too.
Yeah.
Like, your unit has it, it's right on the sheet.
Yeah. And if you're using the app, you just like click on it, it's right there. I mean, the most complex thing is casters, and it's just like, I have these many tokens. Here's the wizard spells. You read through it in like a minute, and you've got, I got this.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've really went over to that game for doing anything at this moment. A lot of it is simply the accessibility.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we feel the same way. So I knew that was probably the answer, but I just wanted to kind of point off that you had.
That's it. That's their selling point. It is the accessibility.
Yeah.
We're once they have product coming out, I think that we'll see how people respond and people are interested in the greater. Because that's what the general public needs to be interested in, is to actually have like product. Like, is this something to actually invest in and be interested in?
Yeah.
Other than buying, the few. They have the largest Patreon for miniatures, but it's still like that's a small group of people buying their STLs compared to who might be able to go into a store and buy it.
Totally.
Something I've noticed with OPR and like other people finding it, like I still get people who ask me, coming from a 40K background, being like, so what models can I use for this?
Yeah,
and I'm like, you can use anything, and they still, so what should I use?
And that's, some of that is Games Workshop has taught people through consumerism that you need to buy into the.
You need to buy that Imperial box.
Because you don't buy. with Games Workshop, especially now, you don't buy into a game, you buy into a product, you buy into an environment, an ecosystem.
A bubble that you were talking about.
And because what they talk about, I have to see this guy and know what he has and what he represents and what's going on. And they've done that. And in general, that's just consumerism in a lot of ways with a lot of things.
Totally.
But, they're a multi-billion-dollar company because they've trained people to do that, and people need to free themselves from doing that.
Yeah.
Coming from the backgrounds we come from, this is easy for us to do, and for other people, it's new to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't think that it transfers. Like, they don't see that they can still play in the 41st millennium.
Yeah.
Yes.
But play using a different rule set. That's just called something else.
Because they're looking, because people come in, and I'm sure people go into a lot of stores and go in and like, oh, so I'm looking to get into Warhammer. And then they kind of, okay, well, here's the wall. This is Warhammer. This is what you do.
I had the same block when I first heard of OPR.
I mean, we talk about this
all weekend long, selling the Brothers of Prometheum packet.
Yeah.
I've had to explain to people, no, you can use whatever.
You can play 40K with this.
Yeah, I was like, it's system agnostic. Do whatever you want with this.
Yeah.
So.
That kind of like just a thought I was having earlier when they were talking about like indie games and 40K kind of like bubbling away, like keeping people shielded from that with like Trench Crusade broke out because you had XGW guys working on it and it being so on the line.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like all these people that are like, have you ever heard of the indie game
Trench
Crusade?
Yeah.
Or a indie game? Like,
Yeah.
And it's like a meme at this point, but
yeah, I mean,
it's
to
real.
us, but to them, they don't know better.
it's real, and it's
And if we can get 5 people we can get one person to realize that, I think it was worth it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that you want to go enjoy your Adepticon, and we've kept you certainly long
this
enough.
was supposed to be a 20-minute segment. This
Sorry.
was this was the highlight of my con. So
I was
going to
say, I don't think we could pick 2 better guests.
No.
Nate Dungeon and Dave Taylor.
I also want to say I didn't know you guys had as much of a background as you did, and that was a treat to watch. To watch that unfold before.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've interacted a little bit. It's funny story because the first time I actually met Dave was, I think, at Adepticon when they had the event. Isaac was running the event where they were like chasing the oil rig thing.
Yeah.
It was like, and he had these bug rider guys going after it.
Yeah.
And I went up and I'm just checking it out, kind of talking to people a little bit, and Dave Taylor comes up, and somehow we start talking, and it was kind of this like, oh no, it's Dave Taylor, I can't. And people tell me, you should go talk to him. I'm like, I can't go talk to Dave Taylor.
He's Dave
No,
Taylor.
it's Dave Taylor. It was so awkward. It was so awkward to a producer, and I was able to just like, oh, here's Dave. I can insert myself into like talking to him without being a weirdo.
And then you found out he was the nicest dude.
Yeah, and I mean, he's exactly who I knew exactly like who he was, and I'd seen him around and heard conversations and like been in conversations with him, just like with groups of people.
Right.
Yeah.
But so I was able to do that, and every so often we were able to talk to him. We kind of knows a little bit, and I post. I think he remembers. He knows who I am enough when I post and throw up all my photos and stuff in the build paint play Facebook group, and they showed those off on the show when they do it. But this has been great.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know Dave was going to be here, so like I've gotten to be on the podcast with Dave Taylor, which is like holy shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, that's why I was just like, wow, I mean, what are we going to do? Swap you guys out and go grab 2 other jokels out
I'm
there?
just sitting here just like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we'll just rock you guys for as long as you can handle. And then we kept Dave till his breaking point, and now I'm sure it's, probably about your time to go get some food or something.
Because, I mean, Dave Taylor was like my first hobby hero, like totally. Because he's been, I mean, what he has done with Games Workshop and then like Warhammer in general in late 90s and the early 2000s was like, he really, because he was the editor for White Dwarf.
Right.
Like, that was very important, what he did in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
He's probably the reason I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
I bet it didn't hurt. It definitely did not hurt.
Yeah. All right, where can they find you? You had mentioned your Instagram.
Yeah, so I'm
Dungeon.
at Nate Dungeon on Instagram.
Yeah.
You can see him shit posting in Rust We Trust.
Yeah.
Also posting the best memes, the best bands,
The best stickers.
the best stickers.
Best stickers. All Marines are bastards.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Hivescom. If you aren't already part of the community, check us out at the In Rust We Trust Discord, which you can find down in the description below. If you have questions you'd like to ask us, you can find our Instagrams down below as well. Or feel free to ask away on the Discord. We also have plenty of extra content and other perks available to our patrons on Patreon. So if you're interested in helping us keep doing what we're doing, then you can find that description below as well. Until next time, folks, keep it grimdark and keep it grimy. Peace.